Hello friends, today we're going to discuss about mental disorder. What is mental disorder? How is it defined? Mental disorder is the disorder of the mind. And what is mind? I've taken that definition from the Wikipedia. The mind is the set of cognitive faculties. What does it mean? It includes consciousness, imagination, perception, thinking, judgment, language, memory. They all are housed in the brain. It also includes processing feelings and emotions. In fact, mind is the function of the brain. And if we say, let's say this is the brain, or let's say this is upper part of the brain, and this is middle part, and this is the lower part, and this is the cerebellum. Now, brain is a machine, or learning machine, which processes. What does it processes? It processes all the senses that come from the sense organs. And they include external and internal. So when I say external, there will be sense organs like eyes, ears, skin, or what we call tactile. This is vision, this is auditory, hearing, this is tactile, including pain, touch, vibration, and taste, smell. So these are sense organs that we know. They send information to the brain to be processed in the brain, and then trying to make sense of that and giving the meaning to them and believing, storing them in the brain areas. In the future, if we come across the similar taste, we know what it is, or smell, or we know exactly what the sense is, and is it safe, is it causing anxious, or is it causing distress or disgust. So all these things are being processed in the brain, and the internal sensations will be even like emotions, how comfortable you are feeling, and even internal regulations, like if, let's say, if the sodium levels are too high, or if chloride ions are too high or low, or calcium ions are too high or low. So the brain monitors, controls. The main function of the brain is to protect the individual, to protect the person, or protect the cell. So what is the brain made up of? Brain is made up of nerve cells. So it has number of nerve cells in different areas, and they communicate with each other. And each nerve cell or group of nerve cells, they have specialized function. Like there will be some parts of the brain which be highly specialized in the process of memory, or another part with emotions. So the brain has the ability to relate all these senses that is coming from inside or outside, to sense them, make some kind of understanding them, and relate it with them, some kind of emotions, and put them in memories for the future reference, and it relates in a way which then goes to certain nerve cells which are called motor, which will help you to decide to take the action. And normally we divide the brain into frontal part, middle part, or posterior part, or temporal part, and the function of each one of these is highly going to affect how the person is going to be. So in this, there is a whole picture of the brain. I'm going to just say, let's say for the frontal part of the lobe, or frontal part of the brain, which we call frontal lobe, it has main function of planning, and there is anterior cingulate here, which is again part of the brain, which will be involved in motivation. Dorsolateral prefrontal will be involved in executive and logical thinking. Olfactory bulb will be dealing with the smell. Lateral orbitofrontal is to understand appropriate social emotional responses. There's a hypothalamus that regulates a number of internal things like sleep, emotions, temperature, a number of other things. Amygdala is basically for emotions, for basic emotions, and entorhinal cortex is for memory. Hippocampus again with the memory. Now if there is defect in or malfunctioning of any of this, that will lead to mental disorder. That is in general what is mental disorder. And for example, we can give emotions, if they are not regulated properly, you might get into anxiety or depression. If memory is not getting function the way it should be, you might be diagnosed with dementia or cognitive problems. If there is problem in thinking, you might have some odd thinking or strange thinking that might be diagnosed with like delusional disorders. And if there is problem with the perception, then there might be hallucinations. So if there is any problem of these things, that will lead to mental disorder. And in general, that is the function of the brain. And in total, we said the brain is made up of nerve cells or group of nerve cells, and these nerve cells, they are highly specialized to maintain the function of the brain. And I got a structure of the one nerve cell, what we call is neuron. They have a cell body, and the cell body, the nerve cell is highly specialized to communicate with other nerve cells through the axon. And when they communicate, they form synapses, we call synaptic terminals. And each nerve cell is highly specialized to make certain kind of chemicals. In general, any cell in the body has highly specialized function to protect itself and the environment. The nerve cell has a cell membrane. Literally, this cell membrane in the nerve cells is such a structure that nothing will get in or get out unless it is required by the nerve cell. And if there is anything that is coming in, even things like, let's say, glucose is needed by the body. So glucose is needed by the nerve cell. It will have only specific routes through which the glucose can enter the cell. and even things very small particles or elements like hydrogen, or we call it H ions. They are not allowed to enter unless there is a requirement and there is a gate for it to come and enter into the cell. The same will apply for number of other particles like sodium, potassium, calcium. All these are required by the cell. Only few exceptions are things like oxygen, carbon dioxide. They might be able to diffuse it quite freely through this, and water. Even water, there is a limitation to it, how much can enter and how much can't enter. Remember the way the cell membrane is made up of? It has called this phospholipid bilayer. This phospholipid inside the lipid is normally very hydrophobic, means it doesn't like water, so it repels water, whereas the phosphate bond outside, they will love the water. And even then it has very limitation what it can allow, what it can't allow, in order to protect the cell and provide the cell with what it requires. And in each nerve cell they have a very specific function to form, and some of these functions are made by the nucleus. Remember, in the nucleus we have DNA, and DNA job is to make proteins. Now DNA is a big molecule, but we don't need the whole of the DNA, because in nerve cell we don't want to create another nerve cell. We just want it to be a factory to produce certain chemicals. Let's say I want the protein dopamine. So what will happen? There will be nerve cell that produces mainly dopamine. And how does it make that? The part of the DNA, it's a long chain, but only the part that makes, or that is coded for, or the gene in it that is coded for to produce the DNA, will be stimulated, and rest everything else will be suppressed. And how is it going to make that? It will have necessary enzymes. So we know that phenylalanine is being converted into dopamine. Or first it is converted into tyrosine, or tyrosine we can get from the food as well. And then this is created to dopamine. And dopamine, we know, is the reward chemical in our brain. So what we are saying is that brain nerve cells has special functions to provide special things, and with that dopamine that will be released here, that will communicate with another nerve cell. So that is the overall function of the brain, function of the mind. And even if there is slight problem, let's say dopamine is there is a problem in either making dopamine, or it is destroyed very quickly, then there will be a problem in the reward system or attention concentration, because it affects a number of brain areas. I hope you like this video, and if you like, please click on the like button. Thank you.